Hello, folks.
Hello.
Welcome to the live. Hopefully, those of you that are here already can see us, hear us. If anyone could let me know, because I haven't done this in a while, especially I haven't done it with my face at all on my channel, so I've forgotten how everything works. But if you've been here before and you fancy chucking a hello in the comments, that would be very much appreciated. I'm going to be looking at my phone regularly because this particular tag has quite a few questions on it and I'm not going to remember what they are. But before I get into it, for anyone who doesn't know Tamara, yes, people can hear hello, Cody, hello, Alicia. Do you want to introduce anything that you want to tell the people, Tamara?
Tell the people. I haven't done this in such a long time. I don't even know what to say, but I'm Tamara, the person behind Nightshade Tarot here on YouTube and Instagram. And that's it. Some of you may know me, some of you may not know me. But
they're missing out if they don't.
I don't know.
Now you do. And
now you do.
Tamara does tarot readings as well. You still sell tarot readings, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, not necessarily always on social media as much as some of us, but
yeah,
definitely someone worth accessing for a tarot reading, nevertheless.
Mostly through Instagram, so.
Yeah, you're sort of still there, right? Even though you're not posting.
On and off, yeah.
So social media, medium hiatus.
Yeah, like when I feel like I have something to share or I want to check something out, like if it has a purpose, me actually going on there, then I will. But otherwise, I just try not to do that because it's just overwhelming right now.
Yeah, I can wholeheartedly understand that. So it's going to be interesting answering some of these questions then. And for anyone who hasn't read the blurb, of course, we're doing the Let's Be Tarot Friends. And that tag was actually started by Tarot is Magic. I did actually watch their video and I saw the tag first through Laura of Aquamarine 18. Although I think Laura, that's still her tag, but I think it's like Aquamarine 18 Tarot and Books, something like that. So shout out to Laura as well. I think I put their videos or I mentioned them in the blurb. I will deal with that after otherwise. But that's the tag we're doing. I didn't count how many questions there are. I just know
a lot.
Yeah. There are a fair amount. But we're not going to be doing as much show and tell. We've got some show and tell items, but this is going to be chatty. And if you didn't know, Tamara and I were 2 of 3 who used to do the actual tarot podcast. So we love talking about our practices together. We love being in practice together and all of the good stuff. And we haven't done this for a while. So we were keen to get on and do something together.
Yeah.
And if I lose my voice, this is all on you.
It's totally fine. Like I can blab away. It's fine. No problem. We're here basically because we enjoy talking about tarot and sharing our practice, like slinging cards together. It's always a lot of fun. And we would still be doing the podcast if it just wasn't like just too much altogether, demanding with kind of getting our schedules together and with Joanna as well. And
it was chaos that at the time was just not meant to be in the end.
Yeah, it was just a lot, but didn't mean we didn't enjoy it. So we're here to talk tarot again.
Yeah. So hello to everyone coming in, by the way. I'm not going to say hello to everyone, just please consider that I include you in that. But if you want to jump in and ask us questions about the question that we're talking about, I'm going to jump off the back of literally every other person that does a live and say, maybe put the first word or all of it in caps so that it catches our attention. I'll
Yeah.
chuck it up at the bottom and try and be professional and do all that jazz. So we want to include you in the conversation as well. And if we miss it, we'll come back to it at some point. But we're going to jump in with the first question. So the first question is, and like I said, I'm reading it off my phone.
Same.
What type of art are you looking for in a tarot deck? Well, it says in a deck, but these mostly center around tarot. So that's kind of...
Mm-hmm. Well, since we're talking about tarot, for me, it's like I'm a Rider-Waite-Smith girl mostly, and I need the artwork to kind of fit into that system for me. But I also do have decks that don't necessarily follow that system like 100%. But that's one of the things that kind of play a part in what kind of artwork I'm looking for. Not necessarily in, is it like collage? Is it like watercolor or whatever? Because it's really difficult for me to just like pick one technique, like art technique or whatever it's called. Because I have like several different decks at this point, like a lot. And they're all super different. So I would say that the main thing that is like a connecting point in what the artwork looks like is that it's kind of leaning on the Rider-Waite-Smith system. But I don't know. What would you say? Because I feel like I have collage decks, I have like watercolor decks, I have decks that are, like just pencil drawing. I have like
we do
there's
have
just
a
so
very
much.
varied collection between us, and I feel very much the same. Also, I've read obviously all of the questions today and you haven't, so I know what you were saying is going to come up again as well. There's a question that sort of crosses over with that, so I get where you're going with it, because but I'll share more of that there's like a question in a bit about what we're looking for when we buy a deck. So in retrospect to just kind of the art style, it's probably easier for me to say things that I don't like than things that I do like, because again, it's like I don't like bad CG. When the person's head doesn't look like it's attached to their body properly.
That's a fair point. Yeah. It's easier to go on like what I don't want.
Yeah, like I'm like Pan with my decks. Like in terms of how rich and diverse I do have things that I enjoy, and I think things that people probably recognize like are my taste. Like I have a lot of tea stained decks, a lot like Memento Mori, but also not just Claire's decks. Because obviously they are all tea stained, but then I've got like the Wooden Tarot, Earthbound Oracle, the Ophidia Rosa. So I love a bit of vintage tea staining. I love
the Memento Mori.
Yeah, I love color as long as it has like a really heavy black border or some way of holding it. So like the Brady Tarot is kind of like that, the Bonefire Tarot. But honestly, I've got most styles. I'm really fussy with collage, it seems, but again, there's not many that have been no-goes for me, but I have yet to feel compelled by like a really bad CG. But I've had a bit of everything. So again, same as you, like the artwork, it's more about how it makes me feel and how much sense it makes to me in a tarot deck than the style of the artwork.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I mentioned the Rider-Waite-Smith system, because it's like it has to make sense. But then again, maybe it's not so much about the system itself. Maybe it's just about the fact that it's made, that the artwork has meaning. Like, I hate if things are just like slapped on the card and there's no reason behind it, or maybe there is, but it's not apparent, it's not obvious.
Really?
Also, it's not explained in the guidebook, and I'm just like, why is that there? So yeah, that's a fair point, I would say, because
It'd
I
be
do
like
have,
someone standing there like this on the tower card, like,
yeah, like why? I mean, it could, there could be a good reason for it. Just give me the reason. Like, I want to know.
yeah.
I want to know.
Look,
So,
your hubby's popped up in chat.
oh yeah, of course,
That's
of course.
super fan.
He's supporting me.
I like him.
Oh, it's so cool to see that there's actually so many people here. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't, it's been a while since I've been on any like podcast or like live stream or whatever. So yeah,
I lured her. I lured her. And thank you, Marlena. Marlena says we both look stunning, which we were both saying that we did not feel this. So we will
yeah, yeah.
compliments received.
I'm kind of in a limbo when it comes to this stuff right now, because I don't know how many of you know, but I'm pregnant. Like, I'm in going into the 6th month, and it's weird. It's weird. Body is doing weird things. Hair is flying in different directions.
It's doing things that you didn't consent to, but they're happening anyway. Yeah. So maybe you're picking up on her lovely pregnant glow, and mine's lighting.
No.
Excellent. So question 2, which is more into that, what we were talking about, is what do you search for in a deck?
Yeah, I think that ties nicely to what we said before. I'm gonna tie this a little bit to gaming, because we're both gamers, and we like, I know you will understand, and I feel like it's the same for me in gaming as it is in decks. It has to have a story. Like, it has to have, there has to be like some red thread like going through it that connects
Yep.
all the dots. That's a big thing for me, because if it's not there, if it's just something randomly slapped on, even if it looks beautiful, aesthetically pleasing, I will usually not pick that kind of a deck up, even if I do buy it. Because I'm a sucker, I get pulled into buying decks just like any other person does. So yeah, like for me, it was like that with the deck that you mentioned before, like Ophidia Rosa.
Yeah.
I don't have that deck, but I wanted that deck for like the longest time. And
It's got a pretty face.
it's such a pretty deck. It's such a pretty deck, but I have a big problem.
Doesn't make sense.
I don't want to, like, I'm not here to bash any artist or any deck or whatever, because that's the beauty of all of this. Like, there are so many different art styles, artists, decks, and so on, and we are all different, and we will all vibe with different things. And I don't know, because I never took the plunge and actually bought the deck, so I can't say for sure like what it would be to work with it. But I have a problem, because I love the way that deck looks like, and like all the plants, and it looks so pretty. But as far as I know, there is no naming of the plants in the guidebook. There is no like, why are they there?
Yeah.
That's what bothers me. And me being a person who, and a witch who loves to work with plants and who works actively with plants, whether that's foraging or planting or just, plant medicine and whatnot. That's a big, big one for me.
Yeah, it would be like if she'd put animals in it for me.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it's like, just name the plants at least, so I can make my own meanings. So yeah, it definitely, there needs to be meaning behind the artwork. And I feel like we kind of take that for granted with some decks, but it's not the case all the time. And also, it doesn't mean that we will agree with the meaning, right? Because sometimes, and we've talked about some decks, like not on like live streams or whatever, but we've talked about certain decks before, like in our private chats, that we actually really love, but we find certain cards to be kind of conflicting with the meaning and in connection to the artwork and whatnot. So yeah, that's a big one for me.
For sure. we're getting a podcast suggestion. Should make a fantasy gaming tarot podcast meetup reviewing the connection between decks and fantasy realms in relation to video games and other lore characters. I mean, he's got a point. Man's got a point. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, but if we do actually do that, you have to come on as a guest. You know that.
Yes, because we know that he will keep people laughing for a very long time. Oh, yeah. And we've got another one. Nicole says, yeah, if you put a plant in the deck, I always want to know what and why.
Yeah,
I can understand that. And actually, so I've got that, and I've got the Maiden Oracle, which is predominantly an oracle but has the 22 majors in it, and that deck does tell you what the plants are, although not why they're in it, but that would obviously be enough for you. And the Maiden Oracle I find to be one that evokes a lot more in my practice, whereas I noticed with the Ophidia Rosa Tarot, I tend to just read it based on all of my numerological knowledge for over 50% of the cards, which is really unusual for me. I don't usually have decks like that. It's so pretty, I've just not got rid of it. And I do love her Maiden Oracle so much. But I have to say, like, if push come to shove and I needed the money, or, you know, someone was really besotted with it that I knew, then so I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
For me, aside from the story weaving part, I think, because I was trying to think, I get quite logistic as well. I spent too much time looking at the questions. I'm like, what do I look for in a deck? Because it's changed quite a lot as well. Because before I was just looking to experience stuff that excited me, whereas now it's the story element. It has to make sense to me in a tarot structure. So it could be more of a numerological one, but it has to make sense. I have to feel like the person knew tarot as well. Like the Marielle Tarot does its own thing. It's not too far from a tarot structure, but it's like it was a dedication, you know. So you can, for me, I always feel like you can feel and see that in a lot of decks. Like I don't own the Margaret Peterson or whatever it's pronounced, but you've got that, right?
No, I don't. Joanna has that one.
Joanna has it, and I remember her showing it and me thinking, like, you can tell that's another one that's had like a lot of time and dedication into it. So, and also what I'm looking for in a deck nowadays, other than a few exceptions, is something that doesn't feel like something I already have, because I've got such a solid, unless it's an animal deck, like there are exceptions, or if it was like another Pokemon deck. But
there are exceptions, yes.
Like wiki decks, obviously there's so much variation in that. But in terms of like, for example, if something came out that was like the Antique Anatomy Tarot, just a different color, but it sort of had flowers and it was sort of Marseille, like or Pippish, I'm not going to be getting that because I'm very happy with that deck. So I think what I'm looking for is this, being able to weave the story, being able to see this thread, and to be inspired as well. Like, because I don't want to look at my decks. I don't mind searching for the meaning to a certain degree in like a fun way. So like the Hyde Tarot, where it's sort of like a symbolic oracle tarot hybrid, that's fun for me. But if I am literally trying, see, the problem is, Logan and I spoke about this privately years back, and I said to him, I will fucking find the meaning in any image you give me. The problem is, I've had to work so hard to get there.
I know, you're fucking brilliant about that.
I'm like, I will make it make sense.
Yeah. If you want, you can just do wonders.
I will whip it out of my ass. But it's work. Like, I don't want to be working. I want to feel inspired and taken away, and like I've got this awesome story layer to explore, like you said. So that's really what I'm looking for.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
I'll just grab a couple of the comments. So Marlena says, isn't that funny? Depending on the topic/theme that's layered onto the tarot, sometimes I want to know why, but when they tell me, I'm like, nope, doesn't work. Yeah, I'm like that with some animal decks. I'm pretty damn fussy.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And for me, it's like either way, like the deck needs to have artwork, of course, that I find appealing, and either it has to be that the artwork itself has meaning for me that kind of connects and works,
Yeah.
or like I don't mind looking into the guidebook to see what else there is. I enjoy that. But I also don't have a problem with if the guidebook doesn't fit what I see in the card. Like I will just like toss the guidebook and just work with the deck. That's fine. But if there's nothing, then it's like,
well, it's a guessing game as well, isn't it? And there's obviously, it depends on what type of deck it is then, because if it's a photography deck, it's quite easy to identify things. If it's got a lot of artistic interpretation, you could be weighing up between 5 or 6 flowers or whatever it is. So yeah, hubby has said, for me, I can't believe I'm going to read this. It's super important that a deck is unique as possible, with minimalistic, really direct messages. No kid has drawn this at lunch hating on the veggies bullshit. Tempera flashes.
Yeah, I mean, he has developed a taste, being, that we are together for almost 9 years now, and he has to put up with all of my deck loving stuff. So yeah, he has become a connoisseur, we could say.
I see. I'm impressed, and I'm going to give you all the credit for that, because I've been with mine 12 years and couldn't give less of an interest if he tried. He's like, as long as you like it. So yeah. And Lexi says, at the end of the day, I need to like the art. If I don't like the art, I'm just not buying the deck, for sure. And there are artists who I really respect, but the art style just isn't kind of my thing. So there's that as well. I think, there was only a couple of other things that I did make a note on this. Nowadays, what I'm looking for in a deck, like I said, has changed. I have a nice sizable collection, as we will get to. I am actually more fussy about how manageable the cards will be in my hands now because of hand pain. And I already have some absolute all-time favorites that are just not friendly cardstock for my hands at all. So I've got really fussy. So I do tend to think about whether they're good to handle as well.
Yeah, that's totally a fair point. And this is definitely a thing that changes, since we have both been doing tarot for at least longer than a decade, both of us. It's different, it would be different if you asked me that 10 years ago than what it is today. And also, once you actually acquire a hefty collection, you tend to not necessarily be more fussy, but it's just the fact that, for me at least, that I already have decks that will kind of fall into a category that I'm looking for in that moment or whatever.
Yeah,
So.
you know what you like, and it's already got hefty competition. So if it's going to hurt my hands, then it's a no. Like, the only deck that I intend to get that I assume will hurt my hands based on its other sister deck is when the Brady Tarot woman comes out with the Oracle deck. Like, if that's the same stock, I'm still getting it, and I'll just buy myself some hand pain gel. So the next question is, what deck are we most intrigued by now, and why? What's intriguing you? Or do you need a moment?
Honestly, at this time in my practice, of the decks that I have, the one that is kind of tickling my brain, let's say, at this moment, is actually a deck that I thought I would never get, and it's the She-Wolf Tarot.
Yes, I see you've been using it in your morning pulls.
Yeah, and this is a deck that has artwork that I usually am not pulled towards. Like, I'm not a collage girl. Like, I
No,
try to
it's
be
not
because it's
one that I
popular.
think of you.
Like, I look at decks online all the time because people are really, really into collage decks these days, I feel like. And that's great. It's not necessarily my cup of tea. Although technically my first ever working deck was actually also collage, but yeah, and it took a while for me to pick this one up, and I don't regret it at all. And it's super intriguing to me because it takes like all of those things that we've mentioned before. There's a theme throughout the deck. It's a deck that is like, it has pink
Look at
gilding.
that.
Like, it helps me get into that feminine energy right now, that I'm trying to like work through in the moment, because it's not something that's like natural to me, let's say. I don't know how to put it in words otherwise, but also every single little thing that's in these cards is put there for a reason. There's astrological like associations. And I really, really, really love that everything that is in these cards is actually described in this little tiny ass book. And that's all I need.
Yeah,
Everything that is put in there makes sense and has meaning. And
I love the colors.
yes, it's just giving me life right now. And if you would ask me like a few years ago if I would get this deck or if I find it
Yeah.
aesthetically pleasing, I would say, fuck no, it's ugly. Sorry, but that's
Yeah, it's not one that makes me think of you at all, other than it does now because I've seen you use it so much.
right. It's not a typical deck that I have, but
Mm-mm.
it's definitely one that's yeah, it's very intriguing to me right now.
It reminds me of me having the Lioness Oracle Tarot. It's like
Mhm.
the only deck like that that I have, but I am legitimately obsessed with it always. Okay, so mine right now, hold your panties, people, because it's gone out of print.
I don't mind. I love that. It's
Yeah.
exciting.
So it's the Forest Law Tarot. And the reason that I am so all up in this all at the moment is because the animals in it are all British. So these are my native. I'm sure they're in other parts of the world, like other parts of Europe, but it's a British creator who's drawn them. Oh, oops. From the fact that these are the animals that I can literally go outside and see, or I can, maybe go to a nature reserve and see. And as we know, I am animal lady. It's literally as simple as that. It's not even an art style that I usually go for, which is funny, similarly to yours. It has trees in the majors. Um,
Mm.
but the great thing about the
Oh,
trees in
cool.
the majors is that the trees are, I mean, I think the artist would have totally not upset people if they'd have done this with the minors as well. But I guess the assumption is that animals are more recognizable as a collective, although some of them aren't to some people. But the trees, I know them, but not necessarily all the time at first glimpse. And so
I really I like how, I don't know if it's in all of the cards, but at least in this one, that you have portrayed, like, you have the drawings of what the leaves actually look like, and like the little
So
like
all the
hobby bits.
majors have that, so that you can see what it looks like at different points in the year for
That's
all
so
of the
cool.
trees. It's so cool.
It's
And
like
then
it's like images in those like guides where you can like go out and like look for what type of tree it is, and you look
yes,
up the shape of the leaf and all of that
It's
stuff.
basically a field guide in a deck. And if people don't know, you can't really see because of how it is, but all of my field, oh no, it's the other side. All of my field guides are there because I collect them.
That's awesome.
So everything in this feels quite, all of the plants are named in the guidebook as well as the animal. And
Amazing.
the reasoning for both of them are included in there. And although it's very minimalistic, everything's very specific, because I'll be honest, in this card, even though I have reptiles and I know this, because of the style, but I think the artist has done this so that it didn't look gruesome. I thought that this was a printing error, but it's the Eight of Cups, and it's talking about when lizards drop their tails so that they can get away from predators. And I'm like, yes, this is, when I talk about what I want from an animal deck, Forest Law Tarot does it very, very well. She knows her animals. Everything is tied. It's not maybe why I would have chose them for the cards, which is interesting. Like, I'll think of a meaning and then I'll go to the book and she'll write about something totally different. They both make sense, but they're different. And also it's got really easy hand-friendly cardstock. I pissed and moaned about not having a British animal deck for ages. I know Oak, Ash and Thorn exists, but it's not animal gnosis, animal medicine in the same way.
Yeah.
This is. So yeah, it's kind of it's going to be one of those ones where it would be very hard for me to critique it other than basic, like, non-important things, because I am literally obsessed with it.
That's fucking amazing.
Basically. Have I missed any questions? I think people are just having chit chats, which we like to see. We like to see it. So the next question is there a card in a deck you always check for and why? So before buying, is there a card you look for?
Not really. It's not like I have a card that I look for in every deck. It's not my thing, but I do like to see how the more difficult cards are portrayed, like the Three of Swords, the Ten of Swords, the Tower. I'm also usually curious about the Hierophant. But it's not like a thing where I need to see those cards. Otherwise, it's just a deal breaker. I don't know.
I don't have that either. Like, I have answered this question years ago for, like, when I was really early on YouTube for, like, one of F&E's 31 Days of Tarot. But I think more that was just at the time I was really obsessed with my favorite card. But in honesty, one of the things that I'm really careful about is if I don't see any minors. I'm like, I want to see minors before I commit, because so many deck advertisements, whether it's indie or mass market, and I'm sure it's not always the creator's decision or doing either, but it centers around the majors, and I'm like, yeah, I think that the minors are a lot harder to portray, especially with some ingenuity. Like, I won't not get a deck because the Three of Swords is just Three of Swords in a heart, but I will have to really love the artwork, and it really just all feel very cohesive. Because if there's a deck that's got really scenic cards and then you get to the Three of Swords, or you get to the Eight of Wands, and they do the same thing, and it doesn't even match
in the air.
yeah, and it doesn't even match the rest of the style of the deck. It's like they just went, shit, I don't know how to portray this in the same way. So they do that. That's sort of so I don't either look for a specific one. It's just kind of I look at a lot more cards than I used to. Like, I used to go in blind, and nowadays it's like, yeah, no. The likelihood is I've seen over 50% of a deck before I'm committing to it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm like, I want to see the deck before I get it. I'm not one of those people, at least not at the moment. I don't know if I ever will be, where people are like, oh, I'm not gonna look at this deck online because I want to, like, be
Be surprised.
surprised or whatever. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'm the same. I can't deal with the surprise because
Like,
it's not fun for me.
no, like I'm spending money on this
Yeah.
and I want to make sure that it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes I've had there are certain decks like the Hush Tarot. I love that artwork. I don't have the deck. Why? Because of that random lovers card.
I have it,
What
and
the fuck
when
is
the lovers
that?
card comes out, I feel twitchy when the lovers card comes out. I've discussed it
And
before on an Instagram live.
and it's a tarot deck, so it's not like I can take it out. It's not gonna work.
No.
So
Yeah.
that's just one card that just ruined it for me. So
I
no.
get it. I get it. In fact, it says, so I'll tie this in, but I also wanted to read. Cody said, I always look for death to make sure it hasn't been renamed to rebirth or something. I have feelings about that too, Cody, although I'm pretty sure that I've got a deck, at least one deck in my collection that does that. But like, I am probably the most disappointing tarot reader because people probably feel really peaceful when that comes up. And I'm like, I'm about to tell you now that this is still about being uncomfortable. So I get that for sure. The following question links into this. It says, is there one card in a deck you really, if there is one card in a deck you really don't like, would you not buy it / pass it along?
Wait, let me see. I have to.
So
if there is one card, okay.
Yeah. So would one card, which I feel like you've kind of answered that, because for you, it's like, for me, I'm trying to hope that I just don't pull the lovers when I use the Hush Tarot.
Yeah, like.
But I have not bought other decks because of one card. And the reason that I haven't spoken about the particular decks that they are is because, one, it'll either be not important, so it's just one card is like, what have you done? I'll have like a really strong response to it and I'll think that just doesn't make sense, or and so I don't want to have too much sway on other people's like feelings if I'm not going to bother getting the damn deck anyway.
Yeah.
On the other side of things, there'll be like a deck and it's like one card feels kind of problematic to me, but no one else is really talking about it. And it's not that I'm a wimp. It's just, I just can't be bothered to be the person that puts that in other people's brains because I don't own the deck. So I'm not about to start instigating conversations about things that I don't own. But there is some popular decks that I've literally not bought them based on one card. So
now I want to know.
I haven't got. I can't remember if you've got it. Actually, you've got this deck, I think. Is it the? But you know that I like the artwork in this deck, so it won't. The reasoning won't affect your experience of it. But you've got the dark.
It won't affect me. It won't affect me.
Dark Mansion Tarot, is it?
Which one?
Is it Dark Mansion Tarot? It's like they're European creators, and it's it looks sort of like Nightmare Before Christmas artwork.
Oh, I don't have that one.
No,
I know what you mean, but I don't have that one.
Yeah.
The Dark Mansion.
Yeah, I can't deal with the four of pentacles on that one and the depiction of them. But there's a lot of like family reason why I just can't deal with that card. So I'm just like, no, it's a no from me, which is a shame because again, it's a gorgeous deck, but I don't need it. So the reason that I did it with a Hush Tarot is because the Hush Tarot card just doesn't make sense to me. To me, it doesn't fit in the deck. It's got a religious and a cultural element that's just not really present in the rest of the deck, but it doesn't offend me. It's just feels a little bit meh. So it's easier for me to ignore and cheaper because it's mass market and the other one was indie.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like I have a problem with like Indian deities or like Hindu deities or whatever.
No, it just doesn't.
I think there's like Lakshmi and
Well,
I don't
so
know.
there was a debate, so we won't touch that because
I'm not gonna pretend like I know, because I don't know. But there's like it looks like there's Hindu deities.
there are two. It's just the couple that it is highly disputed as to whether the book version is who he's drawn the pictures of. But yeah, it doesn't fit with the rest of the deck because there's no other mention of those deities or that culture within the context of the whole rest of the deck. Not that there's not suggestions of people who may. There's definitely individual characters in there who look like they might have that culture as part of their experience or the religion, but it doesn't make sense in the story context. But it was, I think I paid I think it was on sale on Amazon. I paid like £12 for that deck, and the rest of it, like literally blows my mind. I love, like you said, making sense out of things that are harder to make sense out of. So.
And it's fine because like someone might totally enjoy those lovers. Like that's the beauty of all the different kind of decks out there and whatnot. Yeah. So I don't think that you're like ruining anyone else's experience, but just like by just sharing your opinion.
Let's hope not. So I'll let you look at Cody's. I knew that already. I'm not sure if everyone knew that, and I will get the next question.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was like mostly pre-existing art.
Yeah, and you can tell
that doesn't necessarily ruin it for me as long as it makes sense once again. But
the way that I think you can tell is because there's a couple of cards that look really Rider-Waite-Smith Pippish. And they don't look like the rest of the pre-existing art at all. They look like they were drawn for the deck. So it's a funny one because it's one of those decks that's like it smashes a lot of my usual. This doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. But hey, I'm going to be a hypocrite in this instance and get this. So the next question is, what is your? So I'm assuming we answer both of these. What is your favorite? And least favorite card in tarot, and why?
That's difficult too. Well, maybe I can start with the least favorite card.
Okay.
And that's just because I had a bad experience. So the Ten of Swords. The Ten of Swords is the card that actually freaks me out. Because I actually had, I'm not going to go into it, but I had a bad experience.
I think you told me about it though.
Yeah, like I did a reading, someone actually died, and it was a very harsh situation for me. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. But now every time I see Ten of Swords, I'm like, shit, like, and I know it's not, it doesn't necessarily mean, actually dying or whatever, but it is the card that has like the most potential for that for me when I'm reading. And of course it always brings something difficult to the table. So
yeah, because it's associated with a memory that's not going to like suddenly just disappear from your experience either. And or it gets layered in with everything else.
Oh yeah, for sure. So that's the least favorite one. And what is my favorite? I'm not sure.
Do you need a moment?
Yeah, you can go ahead. I'll have to.
My least. So I was thinking about it because I like to be a good sport, and in the grand scheme of things, because I haven't had any like experiences like you, I was like, well, I don't have a least favorite because technically I don't. So what I did was I try and thought of what's really challenging and uncomfortable for me at the moment. And it was, I feel like, quite a fun one to talk about. Not fun for me, but because it's actually a card that a lot of other people really enjoy pulling. And what I notice is I am very sarcastic when I pull it. as is my way, which is the star card. And the
Mm.
reason that I have a very edgy relationship with a star card is because the fucker always comes up when I am so far away from that. Like, it's always an invitation to, like, it's okay, you can carve faith out of something. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, I am so far away from it when it comes out. I am almost, not always, but almost always in the last, I want to say 5 years, when that bloody card comes out in my personal readings. I don't have this association for anyone else's. It comes out when I am like suffering from a bout of depression, or I'm just in a pit of despair, and I'm like, I can't carve this crap out of nothing. And it's like trying to even comprehend finding my North Star is almost insulting. So it comes up and I'm like, oh, like when I feel like that, chuck me the Tower card. Like, I know what I'm dealing with. Actually, there's something just as challenging for me as trying to foster something nourishing when I feel like I've got zero capacity. So yeah, it almost feels like my deck is just mocking me, and I'm like, oh, come on now. So I have to sit with that card for ages because it's quite a resistant one for me, actually.
I can totally relate on that, actually. And when I think about it, I have pretty much the same experience, because whenever I pull the star card, it's when I'm feeling down, or when I'm in a difficult like state of mind or whatever, and it's really difficult to relate to that kind of meaning. But it also sort of makes sense, because when else would the star appear than in the deepest pit of darkness, right?
To remind you that the light exists.
Yeah, but you're like, where the fuck is it?
Show me then. Yeah, and it's like I'm telling you it's there, and I'm like, I can't see it though. Yeah. So I think that it's not so much, like I said, it's my least favorite. It's my most challenging in recent years, for sure. So do you have a favorite yet? I've got a favorite, but my favorite's far more, it's not quite vapid. It's very fitting. It's very fitting for my sun sign and rising sign, though. I'm going to get very Leo just for a second.
Okay.
My favourite's the Strength card, not the Rider-Waite-Smith version. Aside from, I don't hate the Rider-Waite-Smith version. I think it's misinterpreted by people. But I do obviously love that the original, at least I don't want to say original, the very often recognized animal is the lion. And then you get into which astrological thing is it associated with, which I actually don't, spoiler for another question, but astrology is not really a thing I do in tarot, but I know that it's Leo card. And then I remember, it's like Rachel Pollock or Mary Kay Greer or someone like that did the Find Your Path card or whatever that is. And it's another numerological way to like whittle things. I don't put much stock in them, but I know that my life path card is also the Strength card. And I'm like, of course, this double Leo, heavy fire sign, has just strength coming up all the time. But I do feel like it's a card that, aside from like the superficial, it's me, I'm a lion, I always love the animal choices in it. They just, seeing anything depicted in Strength kind of gives me just a bit of a buzz, really, unless there are Strength cards that I really don't like. If it just goes for full brute physical brutality, I don't agree with that for the Strength card. A really lovely depiction is in the Mystical Cats Tarot, and it's got a black cat laying down in the sun with like a little bird or something like on its nose. And I'm like, yeah, it's sort of that open-hearted compassion in the face of things. So yeah, Strength is kind of my favorite, like I said, for some superficial reasons, but I feel very intimately associated with it as well.
That's fair enough. That's a good point. I don't know, like I'm flipping through through this She-Wolf deck. I'm just trying to figure out like what would my favorite card actually be. And it's so difficult to say because I've had these like epiphany kind of moments with different cards in different times in my life. So
and sometimes it's the deck. I've got a stutter there as well. Sometimes it's the deck as well, right? Like, have you ever pulled? I've pulled from the Marielle before and literally cried. So
yes, the Marielle has which card is that? Is it a Four of Cups or what? There's like this, there's the dude that's like standing and his heart is like open, and there's like
Pentacles.
Is it a Five of Pentacles?
With
That card.
The doorway.
Yes, that card is so, I don't even have words. Like it just does something to my brain.
Yeah.
It just makes me feel so like grateful to be here. I don't know why. I don't know. I can't really make sense of it, but it's gorgeous. I love it. I love it. But that's just because of the artwork, right? So and it also, you know, that's the beauty of having different decks with different art. But yeah, that's the card in Marielle that, I don't know, made me feel really seen and supported in a specific time in my life when I really needed that. And the readings that I did for myself with the deck at the time were really healing in essence. So to be honest, any kind of card that kind of hits that spot for me in the given moment is my favorite card, but it's really difficult to pinpoint which card that would be.
Oh, if I didn't have the Leo strength thing, I wouldn't be able to either, because same as you, I think of cards, I do think of them as archetypes, even the minors, but then I also remember cards through artwork. So it's kind of like you say, sometimes it's the artwork that's the pivotal moment. It's not just what the card is.
Yeah. But if I go off the, you know, the thing that you did, being a Leo, picking strength,
yeah,
I should then talk about the star, right?
Being
the Aquarius. But yeah, the way that you were talking about the star before, it actually made me think of those moments, those difficult moments when, you know, because as I said before, I never really pulled the star when I was like in this happy bubbly mood or whatever. Or maybe if I did, it didn't impact me in any sort of way, which makes sense for the star to kind of pop up when you're in this bad spot in your life.
Yeah.
So if I would pick that card, I mean, I could pick that card as my favorite card because it made me, I don't know how to put this in words, but in certain dark moments, it made me not feel like I am being guided, because that would be a lie, but it reminded me that there is something bigger than myself. And I totally know that this won't make sense to everyone, but yeah, it reminded me that there is a divine connection between me and something more than me, and that there is purpose for me to be here, if that makes any sense, and that I am valuable, and that, you know, I am capable, and I already exist, therefore there is a way forward.
Yeah.
So it's like a jumble of things. It's really difficult to put into words, but
it makes sense to me though. And when you were saying it, I don't know what the saying's from. I don't know if it's a therapist-y one or something else or some philosophy, but it says, I exist, therefore I am. And I was like, yep, that's it.
Yeah.
I
So
like that. I think that's beautiful, and definitely where I go with the card eventually, but the initial.
yeah, yeah, it's not an easy card. It's
Mm-mm.
definitely not an easy card.
No one talks about it. When people talk about not no one, sorry, but commonly when people talk about hard cards, they talk about more of what I would call the cliches, not because they're not hard too, but
Mhm,
just they're visibly, like if you pull the Tower out, if you pull Death out, if you pull a Rider-Waite-Smith 10 of
mhm,
Swords, as you say, they're quite visually evocative of something difficult anyway.
mhm.
So it's an interesting one to think about how some of that stuff comes up.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, the star is definitely like a challenger card. It's
mm,
not a card that like just gives you like it doesn't pat you on the shoulder.
no, it's
It's
not a
it's
hug.
it challenges you. It's challenges your faith if we put it in like these like religious type of context or
Mm,
whatever. It challenges your belief in yourself and in the connection with something more than yourself so that you can find the strength to proceed
yeah,
through whatever shitty situation you are right now. um, but it's still your job to kind of muster that strength
just
and
do it.
to actually do it, to actually believe blindly, let's
Mm,
say, because I feel like in that moment you can't see the way forward. You don't know that you are gonna get better. And
mm,
that's the point. That's the challenge of the star card. So, but if you do find that amidst all the chaos, that's a beautiful thing.
yeah, of course. It's like the end goal, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's not something that you can sustain, I feel. I feel like it's more like a moment of just bliss and connection. Um and it happens just like the star happens right in the moment when you actually connect.
Mm. Lexi's reminding me that the saying is, "I think, therefore I am." I'm like, "I
Ah,
exist, therefore I
right.
am." Close enough. I am the worst at remembering sayings, so never take the saying that I've said because I frequently do them wrong. Um,
Same.
yeah. The next question I've made a couple of notes on because when I read it the first time, I was like, it depends what you mean by this. So it says, how do you feel about the esoteric stuff in tarot? So
Oh
then,
wait, I think there's another question.
have I missed one?
Yeah, it's like, what do people close to you feel about tarot and you doing
Oh,
tarot?
good call. Okay.
But to me, it's like that. I feel like that's gonna be an easy one.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, let's do that one. What do people close to you feel about you doing tarot?
nothing much at this point, to be honest. I
Yeah.
mean, everyone knows that that, that I'm the person who reads tarot. So I'm usually the person they come to if they need advice and guidance and whatnot, and that goes like for family and friends and coworkers and whatnot. And yeah, I don't. It's not like a big thing. I feel because it's just such a part of who I am. I
Yeah.
guess I don't know. I mean, I did have like some weird comments by like an older coworker who said that like it's gonna make me sick or something. I don't know. It's just like I'm not gonna I'm not gonna talk about that
Yeah.
because it's like it's like a fart in the wind for me at this
Yeah.
point. Like I have I have established my identity as a tarot reader and as a fortune teller even because that's just a thing in my family and my women in my family were always fortune tellers and bean casters and readers and whatnot. So it's just yeah, that's just what it is.
I think we're both lucky in that instance because I don't know who did what in my family trailing too far back for just a myriad of reasons, estrangement and other things. But my mother, my dad, my stepmother, and then I include my immediate family as like the grandparents of my dad and my stepmom as well. They are all people who have had an interest in spirituality, tarot, and or the occult in all of their weird, varying different ways. So all of them vary quite greatly, but a tarot deck was not news to any of them. They are the reason that I knew what they were at such a young age. So it's just kind of been like a norm, although their version of doing it and my version of doing it, all of us, is a little bit different. But
That's normal though.
yeah, so I feel I'm quite lucky. So it's kind of a non-starter with them. They all know. As far as my extended family, I don't know whether they know because I'm not in touch with them, and I really don't care either way. I would imagine they would have feelings about it, but I care not. So it's a bit of any friends I have obviously already know and are most likely nowadays into it themselves anyway. The only thing that I suppose it differs on a little bit for me is really just clients, because I don't just have tarot clients, I have therapy clients. And it's not that I hide all of my stuff away per se, but I don't, when I see my clients, I don't face this way because this is a bit much. I face towards the window. So I've never really hid who I am. And clients used to come and see me in person, so people will have seen things, although this wasn't my room then, but it's just not something that I advertise so freely to them. And the pure reason is because I'm seeing people from all creeds and walks of life, and it obviously is a lot more taboo for some people, and it's not necessary for them to be even thinking or worrying about that.
Yeah, it's just being professional.
Yeah, but if I have used cards with people who are interested in them, so it's a funny little crossover. But yeah, it doesn't impact my life experience, which is actually I because your other half's family know, right, as well.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
That's the other bit we differ. So I don't think that mine do. And the reason's not for any shame reason whatsoever. It's because I can't be bothered to field their very likely misunderstanding of it or any kind of repercussions from it. So I don't hide it. Like if they ever walk through the house and they look through here, they just think I'm a weirdo, basically. But they just haven't. It's like, oh look.
Yeah, I mean,
we're so glad that he settled down with someone who collects bones and coffins and stuff.
Same. Like if you can see like my shelves here, it's like, yeah, it's decks, books, skulls, random other bones, whatever.
I think people just like to pretend not to see because they don't want to talk about it anyway.
Yeah, and honestly, yeah, they know, but like some of his family are actually open in a way to like such practices. Not that they're practitioners in any way, but they're open to it. But then some of them are like really like scientific people, doctors and whatnot. Like my partner's dad, he will not comment on it at all. and that's all that I need, honestly. I don't need people to agree with me or whatever. It's fine. I just need them to respect my way of life and my privacy. It's not like I'm shoving it into anyone's face or trying to make anyone else believe that this is a legit practice, because I don't have time for that or the energy. But yeah, I mean, I definitely have people around me who know to a certain extent what I practice, but they are just being respectful about it and not his that, because like we live in the same house currently, and whenever he like on a rare occasion will come into our apartment, he's just like, yeah, cool, yeah, whatever. And just not commenting on anything at all. And that's fine. That's great with me, you know.
Yeah. And that's the sweet spot, isn't it? Like I remember just before we moved, my for the first time in 12 years, my partner's brother-in-law, my brother-in-law, my partner's brother and his missus and now their little kiddie came over. And I was like, oh my God, like we're gonna just not take them through the tour of the house, right? And my partner's going, I'm not fucking ashamed, so why should you be? And I'm like, you won't have to field the questions. And so they came through, and I sort of made like a weird sideways joke about, yeah, I'm just going to be the weird auntie. And my brother-in-law actually turned around, much to my surprise, because I said, like, I have a deep fascination with skulls. I have not murdered any of these animals.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Told them that actually I would have liked to have been a vet in another life, like was talking about all of the books that I own and stuff about animal studies. And he was like, if I was a little kid, I would think this is awesome. It's like walking into a library of like stuff. He was like, you're going to be cool, Auntie Tegan. And I was like, I'll take it. So
that's awesome.
So I was very surprised. And I think it's just one of those things, like you said, I don't care if people like it or they have any interest in it. Like my partner has zero interest whatsoever. It's just about respect for me. So
yeah.
same.
Yeah.
So the next question is the esoteric one then, and it's, do you include the esoteric layers? And when I watched the original video, some of the things that they particularly mentioned under the esoteric layers, because I was like, because it's kind of, tarot is esoteric to me in nature as well as other things, but they specifically mentioned astrology, numerology, I can't say the word, Kabbalah, and then they just said etc.
Mm-hmm. I personally don't have any special emotions towards that. Like, I don't have a preference. I don't feel like every deck that I own has to have astrological like correspondence necessarily that is really clear in the artwork. I know that there is a connection. I don't really bother with it all that much, although that is one of the things that I mentioned before with the she-wolf. But that's because there are actually, you know, like there are actually elements drawn, like put into the cards themselves. Of course, I'm not gonna find any of them right now. But
no, there's not.
This one, for example, you know, you have different planets that are actually put in here and certain symbols, astrological symbols and whatnot. And in this case, I really appreciate the connections and the explanations in the guidebook, because I am dabbling a little bit in astrology and learning about it. It's like an interest, but it's not something that I absolutely need to have referenced in a deck in order to be able to work with it, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So that's one thing. Numerology, to a certain extent, but I don't know if I could say that I read numerologically like other people do. I don't know if it's because in numerology there's probably a certain system to what certain number is supposed to mean, or like in generally what the energy of a certain number is. And I never really studied that, but I have my own like
your own
readings.
number color system.
Yes, so
I remember
that is a thing. Kabbalah, not really. I never studied Kabbalah. I never really dove into that. Maybe I will, probably will. But yeah. It's not, I don't know even what to say about it, like esoteric stuff. Like it's cool, but not a must for me to use a deck.
And it also depends what people consider as esoteric, right?
Yeah.
Because when you go into like the broad definition of it, it's far more vast. And then you get people discussing, although it's always only ever Jungian psychology, which is obviously a bugbear of mine, not because I don't like it, just because it's not the only psychology. But that's considered then an esoteric layer. And it's like, well, yeah, of course, there's a psychological layer to the way that I read tarot, for sure, because I'm a psychotherapist. But I've never been one the same as you to feel like there's a set, and I know that this is not why the tag asked it, but the reason I say this is just for anyone newer who maybe stumbles on this strange video, because I remember joining a Facebook group years ago, and some new people got really put out because some dude was like, oh, if you don't learn all of the occult and esoteric layers, you're not a tarot reader, you're not this. And there's quite a fair amount of humans out there who believe that, and I just think that it has to end up being an each to your own kind of thing. Like, that's fine, but having any of those set things on top of it were never like a prerequisite for me. But that will make more sense when we talk in the portion about like how we got introduced to tarot as well. But in the grand scheme of things, other than psychology, layers currently, and numerology, but probably in the more like quote unquote traditional sense, they're really the only two that I could think of. And it's not because I'm anti the other things, it's just because they have not struck my fancy and not been something that I have educated myself on enough at the time to incorporate them, nor do I feel like my tarot readings are missing anything from not having them. I may study them in the future if my brain allows me, but it's just it's kind of another non-starter for me. It's like, yeah, it's I find it fascinating when other people talk about it, especially the astrology. I'm like, when people know astrology and tarot, I'm like, tell me what it means.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, it's interesting and it's cool to make like these connections and whatnot, but I don't feel like it's a must for you to know how to read tarot. I mean, to each their own, as you said before. I don't want to step on anyone's toes here, but yeah, just live and let live, right?
Yeah, for sure. So our next question is Rider-Waite-Smith. We've already answered this sort of. Rider-Waite-Smith, Thoth, Marseille, which one or ones and why?
As I said before, my main is Rider-Waite-Smith. I'm not set on it. I have a Thoth tarot, but that's, for example, one of the decks that I feel that has a lot of esoteric layers. And the reason why I'm not really actively using it is because I feel like I have to study it first. And so it just sits there on my shelf.
Waiting.
Yeah, so that I do also have a Tarot de Marseille, and I'm probably reading that deck in a not the way it's supposed to be read.
You read it well, though. I remember I can't remember if it was like a private one of our freeway chats or whether it was actually one of the televised versions. But I remember you reading and it just being really interesting to see how you were working with it.
It was probably private because I would always make the joke that I can only read Marseille when I'm tipsy a bit.
Right, yeah.
Because like I would have like a glass of wine or two, and then I would read Marseille, and everything would fall in place and make sense. But I would read it in the most absurd way, like almost like I'm making fun of the reading itself, but everything is on point.
It is, yeah. I remember I was like, this is fucking awesome. And you was like, yes, but it's not technically Marseille. And I was like, I don't care.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what it is. But in general, to be honest, I'm not really hung up on which system it is. I think someone mentioned before that that the She-Wolf Tarot is actually more of a Thoth system-based deck or whatever. I have no clue because I have
Yeah,
not studied Thoth, so I don't know.
you're like me. People go, "What's
Uh, I
that
appreciate
one?"
I appreciate it. I might dive into that eventually or not, whatever.
Yeah,
But just like Yura says, I don't know anything about these systems yet. I can read cards quite accurately, asked Tamara. Yeah, because
okay.
I feel like, honestly, I feel like anyone can read tarot if they allow themselves to read. Like you just have to allow your brain to process the pictures on the little cards and make up a story. And I know that that's going to sound really stupid to someone, especially to someone who has studied a lot and put a lot of work into it. I think we both did. And, but still, I feel like the main fun that we have with reading cards is when we actually look at the pictures and just have fun with it and interpret whatever we feel is there at
Mm.
that moment.
Yeah, and tune into what it makes you feel, what it makes you sense, what it says to you, how it
Yeah,
talks to the others, like why it makes sense in the moment. Yeah, all of those things, which
yeah.
we're
So
very, very similar on that. It's like why I say to people that are on the decks is important to me for this reason. I'm quite similar to you, I suppose. When they're breaking it down into those three systems, it's very quick for me to say I haven't studied Marseille. I've studied numerology, and I've studied numerology through people who also use Marseille, but they are not Marseille specific books. So they have uh, accents of Marseille in them, but it's not a strict Marseille structure. So technically, I haven't studied Marseille. And my brief time with, I am a Thoth purist's nightmare. I will read my Thoth as I please. And as because I got my Thoth because my stepmom's only tarot deck is the Thoth, and she reads it and always has, although her dad has read all of the Thoth books. She has always read it intuitively. That's the only way she's ever read tarot. And I got it as a nice, intimate connection between the two of us. And that's literally it. And I have read Thoth stuff and it just didn't please me.
mhm,
So I stopped reading it. So technically, I don't know enough about those two systems. Very much the same. I've got decks that have got infusions of it that are more heavily leaning towards that way. And really, the way that I read tarot has become kind of a intricative mongrel of Rider-Waite-Smith, numerology, obviously all of the elemental stuff,
mhm,
any psychological aspects that feel fitting, the artwork and the story reading and the intuition, and how much of those come into it depends on the deck and who I'm reading for and why I'm reading. Like,
mhm.
same as you, I'm not going to force Rider-Waite-Smith into something that's not Rider-Waite-Smith. But in terms of like a system that I have studied from like beginning to end, that
Mhm,
that's the only one,
mhm. Yeah,
basically. So other than that, yeah, total mongrel. I just
I'm the same. So, and it's not that I don't appreciate, the more scholarly readers, I really actually do appreciate them.
yeah,
Because that's the way, the knowledge has stayed and been shared and I don't know what words to choose right now. English is not my first language, you guys, and I have pregnancy brain, so
yeah,
but yeah, it's like it's a legacy
yeah.
that is made possible by those people,
Mm.
and I am really appreciative of that. It's not like I'm bashing, tradition or whatever. Um, Far from that. I just feel like we can limit ourselves by focusing too much on that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a nice sweet
Especially
spot
when
in the middle.
Yeah, especially when we first approach tarot.
Mm.
But yeah, to each their own.
Oh no.
What?
Did I just... Oh, there we go. I thought I'd deleted all of my list of questions. Such a drama queen as well. Oh no. I found it. The next one is well, we've already kind of covered this as well, but what are your thoughts on cardstock?
I am not a cardstock snob. Like I'm not and I'm not saying that people who will choose like be picky about their cardstock or snobs or whatever, but like I'm not really picky about my cardstock. I have all sorts of like decks with all sorts of different cardstock, like the most horrendous probably being, and you probably also have that deck, the Shapeshifters Oracle by Lucy Cavendish.
Yeah, you hate that cardstock way more than I do.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it, but that's so freaking thin. I don't have any other deck that is as thin as that one.
Oh,
And I
really?
don't know. I don't know if like the
It is thin.
printings, is it the same?
Yeah, we've got the same printing. It's actually because some people have a Blue Angel copy of it, and you and I have the Beyond Worlds publisher edition, which is thin. But you know, my old medicine cards are actually thinner.
Oh, okay.
So I
And
know what cardstock you mean, but I suppose because my medicine cards are thinner, I always laugh because those if you try and shuffle them, they just start making shapes.
oh, see, and that's the only reason that bothers me because I feel like the cards will get damaged. Although on the other hand, I've had those shapeshifters for like 10 years now.
They don't age. They're like
No,
vampires.
they're
Yeah.
like they're perfect.
Same.
So I don't know. I don't know. It's just weird to me that the cards are so thin.
And they're very
Um,
sticky.
yeah, but they're like Yuta says, thick is better. It feels like it will last longer. But I don't agree with that
No.
when it comes to cards. I feel like those old school
Very
cards.
sticky.
Yeah,
Thick is better, but not with cards.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
But you know, I feel like it's not so much about the thickness of cardstock, but it's more about the quality of the cardstock itself and the way it is like laminated or whatever.
yeah,
Because
and the
the
core,
shape,
because I've what's the word, like, not dented, creased some really thick cardstock before and been
yeah,
like, no.
yeah. Because if the card is like too thick, when you actually if you do riffle shuffle them, they will stay bended, like they will stay bent and or even crease, just
Yeah.
like you said. While those shapeshifters, like that's the shittiest cardstock. It's super thin. It's like very plasticky, I guess,
Mm.
but it's not going anywhere. That deck is gonna outlive us all.
It
So,
is. It is the cockroach of the decks. It
yes,
really is. I've taken it outside in the rain.
yeah, I would
It
imagine. I
is
would imagine.
legitimate. It is gonna
Yeah,
last.
but I do appreciate like fancy cardstock as well.
Mm.
Like thank God I don't have like because I have arthritis, but
Mm.
thank God I don't have like any issues in my hands right now, so I can afford to riffle shuffle and shuffle like the more clunky and difficult decks.
Mm.
Um, so I will enjoy different types of cardstock. Like the she wolf is like has gilding that some people will love, some people will freaking hate. Um, it's kind of shiny.
It's larger
Then
cardstock as well, right?
yeah, then like Yuta is mentioning, the true black. I actually have true black here because I
Mm.
have it here to mention later on at a different question. But for example, this is the Cadillac of cardstock. This
Mm.
is probably the fanciest cardstock I have in my collection, but it's not favored, and this is one of the decks that it's really difficult to shuffle.
Yeah,
And because of
thick.
the cardstock, it's bent. You can see that,
Yeah.
and it's a thick boy.
It is.
Yeah, but I think that this cardstock is made even to be like waterproof or something and whatnot. It's like all sorts of things. and it's like the rose petal finish, but it has like these,
So
like,
spot gloss.
it's like, you can see in the back,
Yeah.
it's like embossed with the glossy bits. Like, it's, as he says, like it's the Rolls Royce of cardstock, but it's really difficult to shuffle. Like even I have issues with, because you can't riffle shuffle this deck.
No.
I mean, I don't know. I guess no, you can't. Like not with just doing halves. No.
Not unless you want to say goodbye to your thumbs.
Ooh, yeah, and even if you're like doing like quarters, it's really no. It's not friendly to your hands at all. So thicker is not necessarily better. And it will always depend on, the tarot reader that's
Yeah.
using them. But as I said, like thankfully I don't have like any such issues right now that would prevent me from using different type of cardstock, I guess. And I'm not really particular about that. I just want my cards to last, like
Yeah.
to not. The only thing that I would mention is the cardstock that like will chip at the, because sometimes you have like, and it mostly happens in mass market decks where you have like that edge, and the second you take it out of the box,
It's
it starts.
already chipped. Yeah, it drives me insane. I'm like, people are like, oh, it's going to happen anyway. And I'm like, I've had some of my decks since before I was a teenager, and they look in better condition than some of the mass market ones that I've more recently bought. Yeah. I'm not into that. I think that it would be great if people went more eco-friendly as well. Like that does tend to get my attention in terms of cardstock and just deck creation. But I've definitely been one to change over the years because I loved rose petal finished decks when they very first come out, because my hand pain hadn't kicked in, and I was under the incorrect assumption that it was thicker and it would last longer and it was better and it was just lush. But really that was a response to that cheap, chipped, crappy stock. And so it felt like such a stark difference that I was really excited. But in the end of the day, all I really want is something that's flexible enough that it actually feels like a card. I have lots of decks that don't fit that criteria, but I really love linen. I really love bendy-ish stock, not so much that you can't shuffle it. But and also I like old, like I have said this till I've gone blue in the face, but the old US Games cardstock is like old cardstock. It's like playing cards, but not the linen kind. Like I want that. Linen, or there's like a couple of options of make playing cards and the other deck printer, and people are like, oh, it's not very plush, and I'm like, it's fine, it works for me. It's just so it's more about my hands than anything else really nowadays. Hands, and is it going to last? Because at the end of the day, it's still a material item. It's still a material waste as well that we're bringing in. So the longer it lasts, the better, for a plethora of reasons: money, the environment, etc. So yeah. Oh, and the next question is bags or boxes?
Boxes for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's only because I feel like it's easier to store. It protects my deck better. Like this is my oldest deck, and I love these boxes. I love these boxes. It fits just the deck and just the little book. The big boxes, like the Marielle comes in, I throw those away or use them for something else because it just takes too much space. And those are the decks that I will usually put into bags.
Yeah.
But it annoys me because I want to like stack them up when I'm like putting them on my shelves, and I want to be able to see what deck is in there, because after a while when you have so many decks, I don't know, like it's really it's just I don't even know anymore what's in those decks. And I have the same issue as you mentioned before we actually went live, is that if I don't see my decks,
Yeah.
I don't I'm not going to use them. So that's my problem with my decks in bags. I have to figure it out. If anyone has that, like, a solution to that, please let me know.
It's I feel very treacherous to the wonderful bag people that I love and support and have either gifted me or I've bought their bags over the years. So people will see a lot of bags, but that's because I've got a lot of decks, and generally I've got bags for exactly the same reason. I like bags for the simple and only fact that they support the people who create them. And in reality, I am otherwise I'm displeased that I need to get them because I've already spent the money.
Yeah.
I want firstly, I expect the thing that it comes in to do the job. And secondly, like you said, it's easier, and logistically, as someone who moved not that long ago, like, it's freaking easier for moving as well. It's safer. Putting cards in and out of bags instead of a flat, more hardy surface does wear on the corners more. It's just across the board. It's just it's logistics as well for me. Like, it feels. And the problem is I've tried to recycle deck boxes before, and some of them have like a layover product that is non-recyclable. So it is just wasted material. So yeah, I'm, for all of the reasons you said and the things that I've added, I want a box. And if they could preferably, I don't even hate tuck boxes, but like, yeah, if you could do one of these two things, like,
yeah, keep it simple.
Yeah. Basically just that. Do you need a wee break, or are you all right?
I'm good so far.
So I may beat you to the wee break. I'm all right at the moment. So the next question is, how did you learn tarot or get into it? Got quite a few questions left, by the way. We've got like at least 8.
I got into tarot probably because of my aunt on my dad's side. Because she's into, like, she reads cards as well. And I remember, like, when I was younger, that she would read like those, I don't know what you call it, but like, we simply call them gypsy cards.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar like Lenormand, but it's not the same.
Yeah, I've seen them. The ones that I saw were in like a little red box. They were quite nice.
I have a copy.
I don't know if they've renamed them since because of
these.
Yeah.
It's not the Gypsy Witch. Like, I know that there was a whole drama about that, but this is like, this is old school. Like, this has been around for a while.
Yeah, they have. I remember. So it's not, it wasn't someone like recently making them and using it as a slur, although I don't know how people feel about those original decks that are and for traveling backgrounds, but I know that those decks have been around since like forever, and that's what I knew them to be called as well.
Yeah, I mean, here it's just,
they do look very Lenormand-y, don't they?
It is what it is. Yeah, yeah. They really remind of Lenormand, but they're not Lenormand. Yeah. So this is what she would use most of the time. And she would have a friend over and they would read for each other and whatnot. So I was always intrigued by that. And yeah, I would say I kind of got pulled into it because of her. But no one really taught me. Because, as I said, she would read these, and these are like the gypsy cards, the gypsy like fortune teller cards or whatever they're called. And I wanted to read tarot, so I was like on my own, like self-taught or whatever. And the deck that I started with was the Eclectic Tarot by Piatnik as well, and it's a very like Pipish deck, very esoteric, and it just has like a tiniest like white booklet with it, and it was, yeah, it was interesting, although I could like pull quite a few good readings with those cards. But yeah, I would just simply start with that and with the little tiny ass booklet. That was
Yeah.
it. That was it. um and later on I got this, the is it the Mystic Dreamer Tarot in
I
English?
showing me that one.
This is old, very
Yeah.
old. um so I got this one, and this one actually, like the booklet that comes with this one is also small, but and this one is like falling apart. Like I have, like, you know,
It's like I've been used.
it's old. It's been used, definitely. Like it's all weird colors and stuff.
Yeah.
But this is how I learned tarot. This tiny ass book,
Mm.
and simply observing the cards, and that was it. That was all there was to it. Um, for a long, long time before I actually read any like proper tarot books. I learned mostly from that
Yeah.
and from reading for my friends and getting readings from my friends as well. And we would like just talk about the cards like we are now, for example, or like we did on the podcast, like where we would talk about, oh, what do you think that this means? What could it possibly be? And, just kind of brainstorming it together. That's it.
And I think that's really interesting, because obviously mine wasn't exactly the same, but it's very similar. So for me, my mum in particular was the first person who introduced me to tarot, because she was who I lived with first, and she had tarot since as young as I can literally remember. And she would sit there and she would tarot journal or dream journal. And she was the one who bought me my first tarot deck, and before I would use hers. So she had the Medicine Woman Tarot and the Mythic Tarot are the two of hers. She didn't have loads anyway, but they're the two of hers that I know and saw and used. And then they're what she got me anyway. It was just the same versions. And people will potentially know the Mythic Tarot. It does come with a chunkier book. But the thing is with that book is, conceptually, at some of the ages that I was reading at, it wasn't going to land in the same way as it did now. So mainly I would just read what I saw with that one. And I got that one later. Whereas the Medicine Woman Tarot, I do have a book now, and there was a big book. But when she got me my copy, I don't know if she had the big book, because you could buy it individual or in the big box set. It was literally just this, and so very much the same as you. Like the the amount of information per card is laughably brief.
Yep. Yeah.
And my whole, aside from occasionally referencing the Mythic Tarot book as I got older, and a couple of other tarot books that I'd then bought decks, like more decks from, all of the decks were so different, so they wasn't saying anything coherent, so I wasn't learning a system. And before that, it was all just read what you can see, read what you feel, read what you sense. And the same as you, most people would just say it's intuitive reading, and that was such a dominant part of my existence that I've shared my tarot story. So if people want to go and like listen to more of me for whatever reason, then they can listen to that. But the short version is that when I came online in like 2015, 2016, and people had been talking about Rider-Waite-Smith, I was like, oh, then I don't know tarot. And then I remember telling people, oh, well, I must be a beginner. And I really confused everyone, because I was like, oh, I've had tarot for ages. And they was like, well, you said you was a beginner. But the Rider-Waite-Smith system was, other than what I'd been told about the cults, which the swords are fair-skinned with dark hair, which I don't do any of that anyway, mainly because then most people weren't represented in that. But that was the only part of like a system that I knew. So learning the Rider-Waite-Smith came way later and was like a whole thing in and of itself, for sure. But yeah, it was definitely my mum, because again, it was normalized. It was just there. It was this cool thing she did. She would pull me that, or she'd pull me like obviously the medicine cards oracle, and read through the book, and we'd talk about what it meant to us. And that's what I did when I was so little, that to me that's just what people did. Like that was normal. And then she only knew loads of hippies and other stuff. So for ages, I just thought that's everyone has this. This is what people do. I didn't know it was strange or quote unquote, like a less common, because it was my common for so long that it took being around other people on the other side of my family at a later date to be like, oh, some people think that this is weird. So it's just a part of our existence, right? It just makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm really grateful now that I'm listening to you talk. I'm really grateful that we at least had the chance to kind of not have that many resources that early on our like tarot journeys, because I feel like that is genuinely better for somebody who is just learning. Because if I did have all of those like information, like just like straight up, it would probably make me feel overwhelmed. I can't imagine like going into it, especially like so young, going into it as a serious study, like sitting down and like, it would just put me off probably.
Yeah.
So also just like approaching it with this intuitive approach is more, it allows space. I feel like it allows space where you can still add on all of these interesting information and all of these different systems and meanings and schools of thought and whatever.
Yeah, it's like you can draw them in, but they're not hindering you.
Yeah, as if it was the other way around. I feel like it would probably kind of limit me. I would limit myself because I would just have it in my head that this is the way it has to be. And it would be more difficult to me to allow myself to just like kind of be more intuitive and open-minded.
Yeah, the same. It would be a lot harder. I'm already at a point in my life where I'm trying to unpack things and unlearn things that I have been sort of systemically trained or whatever it is. And I'm very thankful that it was the other way around. When I joined the community, the intuitive layer was so poo-pooed that I didn't feel that way, but I definitely feel that way now. That would have I will feed you in a minute, ma'am. She's like, dinner.
Yeah. Woody is sleeping on the hanging chair just right there. And I'm just hoping, praying to gods that he doesn't like start his shit right now.
When he does, everyone's going to hell.
Exactly.
So the next question is the best news in tarot world you heard lately.
Actually, there is one thing.
You have some. Wow.
There is one thing. I'm not really active in the tarot community or whatever, like tarot world per se, but I did see that there will be a mass market printing of the Lumina Tarot.
Oh.
Yes. And that was like, okay. So that's probably the best news that I've heard lately in the tarot world. Just because I've been like looking at that deck for a while, and it's been like it hasn't been available, and I'm not gonna be spending like tons of money on it. And yeah, it's gonna go mass market.
Awesome. So. I wonder if their Oracle will ever go mass market, because that was one that always intrigued me as well. Same. I never got my grubby little mitts on it. But as far as tarot news, for someone who's in the community, well, I'm sort of a fringe walker, which is very funny because a lot of people say, "Well, we don't see you that way," and I'm like, I'm telling people now, I'm a fringe walker. Like, I'm not in with the main things and the main. I'm just not up to date with what the big players are doing in the community, whether that's a content creator, whether that's a deck creator. So yeah, I have. I have friends who are creating decks, and their Kickstarters are either coming up to, they're going to be shared in the next couple of months, or their Kickstarter is already been fulfilled and the deck is coming soon. So maybe I'll just shout out two of them, which is Lennox has her, I want to say, I'm sorry, Lennox, in case I get the title of the tarot deck wrong, but I think it's called Peculiar Pathways. Lennox is the creator of the Coastal Curiosities, for anyone I'm confusing.
Cool.
And I think that a UK stockist is going to be stocking that deck as well. So I think that that's pretty cool. And Claire is always working on something from Black and the Moon, and that's all I'm saying about that. And Logan of Lark and Legend, they are working on an oracle, as I understand it. And Lennox is still here. Hello, Lennox. I got the name right. It's like we talk about your deck often, and I'm like, shit. I'm also very careful. Like, Lennox's has been for like kickstarted already, so it's officially out in the world, whereas the other two have got goings on, and I don't know if they've shared. So that's my happy tarot news. But
that's awesome.
I'm otherwise out of the loop.
I'm totally out of the loop, to be completely honest. Like, that's just
that you heard that.
It was super random. It was super random.
It was like good timing. So the next question, but I am going to feed the cat. So, but you don't have to wait for me. I will be in earshot, but you can wait. It's up to you. How many, in fact, if you need to do anything, I need a wee as well, actually, if I'm honest. At an hour and 50 minutes, my bladder has held out worse than the pregnant ladies. So I need to feed my cat and have a wee, of which will take me an impressively fast, maybe 2 minutes, because the house is quick to get around. But the next question is, how many decks are on your to get list? So you can either sit and think about it, you can go wee, you can talk to the crowd.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go pee as well, because I actually don't have like I don't have a to get list, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, me neither. Me neither.
So,
foul.
That was awesome.
Oh, Zuri. She hates being picked up, but just so people can see.
Baby,
she says, "Put me down."
So cute, though.
So cute. So we're going to have a wee break. So if you've got any decks that are desperately on your to get list, write them in the comments. Enjoy the serene background, and we'll door, and we'll be back in a minute.
Yeah.
Come on, Pickle. What's these? Yeah. There you go. I think that must be record timing. I love that Tamara thought ahead and turned off her screen. I just left mine on and my mic on. So if anyone heard me feeding the cat and giving her baby voices, I can assure you that she thoroughly enjoys it. I ran down the hallway, and now this is how fit I am, people. But I will say, in regards to just, oh, she's back. Okay, awesome. I don't need to make up something to talk about. I ran down the hallway though, and then got here and was going. I did not turn off my camera nor my mic. Never mind. So the next question is the big question. It's not a big question, but it is a hilariously often challenging for those of us who own more than 10 decks question, which is, if you could only keep 3 decks, of which we went for tarot with this, by the by. So if you could only keep 3 tarot decks, which would you choose and why?
I'm easy because I literally picked out my 3 decks like 2 minutes before we started.
It was impressive.
And I picked them purely on like a sentimental value type of worth. And my 3 decks are, because I was thinking like, I have so many decks, it's impossible to choose just 3 in terms of which are the best readers or which ones I like most at the moment and whatnot. But if I think about it, if I was to, like, God forbid, like lose all of my decks in some accident or whatever, certain decks I could replace, but certain decks I can't replace, or I can, but they're not gonna be that one same deck, and that has value to me in certain cases. So as I showed before, my first like working deck is this deck. This is the deck. And how old is this? It's over 10 years old. And we've talked about this before. Like, this deck,
I love it.
like a lot of people hate this deck. But this deck has a smell to it, and it sounds disgusting, but it's like all the incense over the years, because I would cleanse this deck religiously.
Yep.
Like, this was my one deck. I would like take it one card and like cleanse it over incense, like each card separately.
That's commitment. I'm not as committed as that.
I don't do that anymore, but I did that before, and it's just, it has so much of my energy in it, and there are so many places where this deck has been, so many, you know, memories, situations, so many readings I did. It's just, yeah, even if I would buy another one, it wouldn't be the same one.
No, and that's the problem.
Yeah, and I was thinking of buying myself like a backup copy of this deck, but I was like, it's pointless. Why would I do that? It's not gonna be this same deck anyways. So yeah, and it's held up pretty good. Like, it has like a gold yielding, but you can tell it's like used mostly here, because like, yeah. But it's held up pretty well, I must say. There's no like major chipping to the deck. There's no, it's not bent in any way.
Cardstock.
Old school. The only thing that's actually really falling apart is the booklet, and it's just because it's actually been used over and over and over again.
Yeah, and it's glue bound, that booklet, isn't it? So the pages do just come out.
Yeah. So that's one of them. Another one is the True Black, and it's not for any like posh reason, but again, for sentimental value, and that's because this was Yura's engagement gift to me,
Oh.
and it has a lot, like it has lovely memories tied to it. Because the evening that we got engaged, that he proposed, was like we were on vacation, and he had this deck with him. I had no idea, and he would actually set this deck like on top of our bed in the hotel room, and the bed would have like these like reading lights or something, and he would like direct them so it was shining on the deck. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so like when he would like flip on the switch of the room, like all the
Yeah,
other lights would be off except that.
awesome.
And we went for a walk around this like little lake, and he proposed, and it was really sweet, and all of that. And then we came back to the room, and
You got a proposal and a tarot deck.
yes.
That's it. I'm talking
Yes.
to him when he gets home.
It's not a substitute. It's not a substitute for the ring. But yeah, so that's one of those it actually is like a milestone deck in our relationship.
Hashtag goals.
What?
I said hashtag goals.
Yes, yes. That. And then the last deck I have like in this box, because I don't have a box for it, is actually a deck that isn't mine, but is my deceased cousin's deck. And this is the deck that he told me he wanted. Like, I got him into the spooky shit. And it's the Ghosts and Spirits Tarot by Lisa Hunt.
I remember you telling me now.
Yeah. And this is his deck. And it's one of those things that I got to like keep after he has passed. And it's just, yeah, again, just priceless. I don't actually use it to read with. But it sits in this box, and it's my like connection to him, and to again to those like little moments and memories that we had together. So yeah, those are the 3 decks.
Yeah, I love that, because I've got some items that I suppose are kind of it's not quite spirit vessel, isn't quite the term I want, but that kind of thing for sure.
Mhm.
So mine are less heartfelt. One of them's not, but the others are. They would be more heartfelt if I had included Oracle as well, but my brain couldn't deal with it, so I didn't. So the first one is my Medicine Woman Tarot. So this is the very nostalgic one, and as you can see, actually the box is doing well for. Let's think about it. I've had this since before I was a teenager, and I am crap at maths, but I am 35, so it's is that
That's held up pretty well, man.
20 years. Oh no, that's old. That's not one decade, that's 2. Right, yeah. I'm old, yeah. I'm old. This is old, but actually the reason this looks worse is because my partner did like a weird judo chop kick as he was getting onto the bed one evening and kicked the box as well, which made it worse. I was like, of all the decks, that's what living with him is like, though. Like, if it's the one deck, it should just be out of his reach. But I'm very similar, in fairness. Like, I'm a massive spiller and burner. So this is the deck that like I grew up with. It's like, it's not a perfect deck, but what I will say is, especially of its time, it was a lot more diverse. I'm not saying there's not issues with how some of it's presented, but I thought just tarot decks were like this anyway. So it was quite a lovely tarot deck to come to for that reason. There's a lot of nature. There's a lot of animals in it. it feels very homely to me, and exactly the same as what Tamara said. This smells of like a weird incense and oil blend that doesn't exist. And the reason is it doesn't exist because it's literally been in and around the incense of so many houses, and it's been handled by like quite a few people. It's really grubby around the sides. In fact, this looks clean, but that's just because the whole thing's grubby. Like, I'm an oily person as well, and I'm a face toucher. So I was listening to someone actually say the other day, like, "Oh, why are people's decks dirty?" And I'm like, really? It doesn't matter how clean I am. I will touch my face. Also, I wear makeup now. I'm an adult. So then I put that on my like, I don't do this. But it happens over time. But it's so rich in like a scent memory in itself. And yeah, the thing is, whilst it's not like my first go-to reading deck now, I would be genuinely sad. I'm not attached to very many material things, the same as you. We're not really like that. But there are just a few things where you would get over it, but it's irreplaceable. The only difference for me, from what you said, is that I did actually get a second copy, and my reasoning was, so Dave judo chops it, as I said. It's held up really well. It's got a couple of stains on it, but no dents, no nothing. But when he judo chopped it, I started to feel very fearful. And it just so happened, I put one of those like eBay, because you know me, I won't pay over £40 for an out of print deck because I won't, or 45. I put a thing on, and this is like one of the older copies. If you buy a new copy, the box is different, the cardstock is slightly different. We saw one come up for under £40, so he just bought it for me anyway. And what I said to him was, I wouldn't use the whole deck because this is irreplaceable. But should he or I damage just one of the cards, I'd want to be able to use the deck still, because the other 77 would cancel out the one card, if that makes sense. So I'd rub my face along it and initiate it. So that's a very sentimental one for me and quite an emotional capacity. Whereas the other two are more pivotal points in my tarot practice. I freaking love the Wild Unknown Tarot, and really I just hate the whole assumption that it's because if you love this deck that you must have been another one of the it kids that got into it when there was all hype. There's nothing wrong with the hype. It's just me being slightly not wanting to be associated with it.
The problem is that it's associated like negatively, and I don't even know why.
Yeah, because it's honestly like, I had the tarot decks I had the Mythic Tarot, but animals weren't predominantly in decks. And so when I came into Deckland, and the thing is, I was watching only 2 YouTubers. So one of them mentioned this deck, one of 2 YouTubers, and I was like, oh, this is how I sketch. Like, I was really upset, not as good as this, but I was freaking obsessed. And I'm like, hello, animals, yes please, because I only had animal oracles. And so I got it, and I'm very glad that I wasn't kind of swayed by any narratives going on at the time, because I didn't really pick up on that until later. And really I shouldn't be bothered to love something so quote unquote trendy, but it's more the association with like the new age the new age white feminist girlies. I don't want to be associated with them. But I freaking love this deck. It was a pivotal point in my practice. I did learn the Rider-Waite Smith with it, which is backwards. That was another hard time, but it was like a whole new era. I had all these old decks, and then I'd never bought anything from like not holding it in my hands as well. I ordered this online. I hadn't picked up my tarot cards other than for art purposes for probably a good sort of 8 years. It was like a whole thing. And it got me back into it. And then the last one, although not this edition, but I just didn't want to pull the other one out of its happy place on my altar. So ideally the first edition, just because it's smaller. but my Brady tarot. And the reason being for this one is simply the fact that I am yet to find. I do have animal tarot decks, full animal ones like this, that are very much alongside this, like the Animal Wise Tarot by Ted Andrews. But I honestly, between the art style and how much I connected with this when it came out and how well done it is, I just think it stands a testament to time. I don't feel like there's much that Emmy Brady could have done to improve upon the deck.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an animal tarot and a full animal tarot, whereas the other two have got animals in, but they're not full. So it's too much of a pivotal moment in my deck practice to, like, if I was really going to whittle it down, the Brady tarot, I can read for anyone, anywhere, anytime with it. It's good to go. It hates my hands. My hands hate it. But other than that, it's like the mean girl that I have to keep because, yeah, it just, we make sense together, I think.
It's a great deck. It's a great deck. Like, she did a great job. And just everything is amazing about it. The artwork, the all the little details, everything has meaning and is actually described in the guidebook. And
yeah, and that's what is like, oh, this means this. And like, if she's going to talk about if it has an indigenous cultural aspect to it, it's not just, oh, it's Native American. The tribe is mentioned. Some of the money goes to support some of the earth foundations and one of the larger, broader tribal charities that I've forgotten now that, like, supports not just one but several. So there's like all these layers to just the intrinsic way it was made that I think, aside from, I don't think there's any like eco-friendly layer to the cardstock, but the rest of it, chef's kiss as well, like just very, very, very intentional. And lino cut, whilst I don't have one favorite art style, lino cut is one of my favorites. So it's definitely winner chicken dinner to go very British.
It's definitely a special deck. Yeah.
So the next is, how does knowing tarot influence your everyday?
I don't know. I guess it influences my everyday if I pull like daily cards in the morning, so I have something to grasp my day before I actually start it, if that makes any sense, or at the end of my day to reflect on it. But also, you know, sometimes, I don't know if you do that, but sometimes, you know, seeing certain things like,
what, like in nature or like statues, and you go, that statue looks like the so-and-so card.
Yes. So that's probably the best way to describe it. That's how it influences my everyday. And maybe sometimes even certain situations where I'm like, oh, this is such a, like, I don't know, 5 of Wands situation.
Yes. Basically that. The only thing that I would add, but I really think that this is like an enhancement on what you've said, is that I have a very good visual mind's eye. Symbols generally make sense to me for the most part as a language, and I like having things that tie to those types of things to express myself and communicate. So it's, for me, it's another tool to communicate. It's another tool to understand the world in the way that I perceive it. And for all of the reasons that you've just said, like that was very 5 of Wands. Or when I walk around the city and go to, like I said, my partner who doesn't care, this really looks like this tarot deck card.
Yeah.
And he's like, you should probably take a picture and then you can share it online and talk to people who know what you're on about. Because I get it really excited. And he's like, I'm going to have to take your word for it.
He's trying though.
Now, he will very, very occasionally, I'll pull a card and I'll go, tell me what you think this means. And it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's the best.
I would film it if it wasn't so entirely inappropriate sometimes.
Same.
It's a little dicey. More because he thinks he's funny as well, which in fairness he is. But yeah. So
We should get Dave and Yura together on camera.
oh my god, the internet would just be offended for hours. We would be in deep joy, and everyone else would just I would lose followers so quickly.
Yeah, same.
So the next one is we've already answered this, but I will ask it. If you could turn back time, would you have learnt tarot any other way?
No.
No, me either. It's very simple. Same. So the next question is, and we've got 4 left. Just if anyone's tried to stay here for the long haul and they're like, I'm having fun. It feels quick to me.
Yeah.
The only reason I know it's not quick is because I know when I started the recording.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, 2 hours in.
Yeah, it's insane.
What are your thoughts on 3 of Swords? Thoughts and musings.
My thoughts on 3 of Swords. I feel like everyone is super afraid of that card. While I feel like that card has helped me heal more than anything else. And it's actually been a card that I've pulled recently from the She-Wolf. Let me see if I can find it. But to me, yeah, here it is. The 3 of Swords to me is not... It's not so much like, oh, beware, something terrible is going to happen. But it's more about just realizing certain things that are already there or that you couldn't like admit to yourself before. It's like those truths that you have that you needed to acknowledge in order to heal. It's like pulling the bandage off and exposing yourself to whatever is under there in order to kind of clean your system of it and actually start the healing process. That's what it is to me. And here, like, I found it very interesting how this figure is like really exposed to all the elements. And even though she's like in this like glass like structure or whatever, she's still like really kind of unprotected and exposed to everything and exposed to the truths that surround her regardless of what she does. And for me it was a very reflective card, like a card of vulnerability lately especially, and of how like it also kind of reminded me of the need to actually take care of myself. And also it speaks of overexposure to certain information, situations, energies, and whatnot. I feel like it was very relevant, and it will be very relevant for me, at least in this day and age, because you know, just yeah, I've talked before about, you know, how being on social media affects me negatively, and you know, just we were not made to be exposed to so much information all the time on such a level that we are in this day and age. We just can't process it. And especially, you know, the negative information, because we are talking about the 3 of Swords, the negative information, you know, wars, natural disasters, suffering, crime, poverty, whatever. Like it's all just about that. In the news and on social media, people are arguing, and it's too much. Like back in the day when people lived in like smaller communities and internet wasn't a thing, we were exposed to the problems of our community, the problems that we could actually tackle and do something about. And you know, we would actually be able to problem solve productively without like burning out. But today that's just not possible. So yeah. those are my thoughts. Like, I don't want to go on and on, but yeah, that's what it brought up for me, at least lately.
Yeah, it's an interesting one as well, because there's been, obviously, I'm always reading mental health studies for obvious reasons, and there's been a lot of mental health studies around social media and the news, and more, like you said, the sheer velocity. So it's not the not knowing, it's the sheer amount of it on a regular basis that is showing up time and time again in people's mental health, is showing up more and more in therapeutic discussions with clients, that a lot of us are talking to other professionals about. And it's not that it's not even a not wanting to know. Like you said, there is something about being able to have input. And I think sometimes we can have input to further away places as well, like when you and I give to whatever charities it is or whatever. But it's the sheer amount of overwhelm. Like you said, it's information overload, which is a really good, I think, key term for the swords, because I feel like sometimes it gets confused mildly with more of a cupsy kind of, you know, emotional. And it's like, but the two things are very much intertwined. And when we get like mental overwhelm, it then has an effect on our emotional processing, like where we're at, and obviously vice versa as well. And it's like, even things from being online, just using what you're saying and hearing people argue about whose life is more important, well, fucking everyone's. Like those arguments are like dramatic earworms that are like very, very detrimental to just have a 24 sort of hour feed into. So that's just jumping off of some of what you said, because like I said, I get how our reach can be beneficial to have community reach in some aspects, but also things like when that's utilized to, like you said, an extent where you can't ever have a break from it. It has a mental impact. That for me is very much like a Rider-Waite Smith or a Three of Wands that's depicted in that way, because I do use a lot of like pippish decks. If I'm going to go for more of a numerological stance, this is sometimes where a few of my card meanings can really be different. So for me, then it would be more like the 3 and the suit it's in, the suit of communication, intellect, stuff like that. It might be an expansion of our awareness. I think a nice meeting of sort of emotional intelligence, because there is that infusion still, and how we then communicate that with others in our lives. So it depends on the deck / I suppose what system I'm erring towards, but certainly for the most part, I do think it's a card that's kind of misunderstood meets somewhat like underrepresented in terms of potential what it could mean, like you say. But certainly if you're going for the Rider-Waite Smith one, the overwhelm is really very real in that card. And I feel like it's a 3, so it's the first time that we feel like that. There's something quite dramatic about feeling like that for the first time in itself. But yeah, that's all I've got to say on that one. Otherwise we'll go on for ages. So the next question, these 3 probably won't take us that long anyway. And hello to everyone who's saying hello and learn.
Yes.
How many decks do you have right now?
I actually went through them yesterday, and I have around 150.
That was my guess. Okay, that was my guess.
Yeah, but I was counting in like all the, like, for example, I have the Gentle Tarot in the normal size and the pocket. So I I counted both of those. And like, I don't know, like the spread machine, I have like the base deck and the 2 little expansions. So I counted like both of those together, like all of those like separately. So
mine is mine is my Tarot Oracle of other type of decks as well. So just for those who weren't sure, Tamara means literally everything she owns, and I mean the same. I'm sitting at around just shy of 100, I think. So yeah, That's how many we own. We have already spoke about this behind the scenes, but essentially we have no feelings about this other than that's how many we own.
Yeah. That's
Well,
as you said, that's like tarot cards, oracle cards, Lenormand cards, all sorts of cards that I have in my collection. That's the number. But yeah, as we said before we went live, like I don't feel any sort of way about it. I used to have a problem with having so many decks. Like I used to felt like I shouldn't. I don't know why, but yeah.
There's a lot of discussion either way, and I think the thing is that it boils down to how healthy it is for the individual person. And I've spoken about this a lot, so I won't repeat myself too much, but one of my examples, just to use me so that no one else then feels like they're attacked. A great way that I explain it to people is that before all of my conditions kicked in, because I did once used to be a healthy, fighting, fit individual, I had so many other hobbies that vied for my time that were physical. You know, I played badminton, I went to yoga twice a week. And they were all equally as important, even though there's spiritual facets to this as well as other layers. They were equally important to me. So my practice would have existed the whole way through, but I'd have never had as much time for as many decks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are many, that's not the only reason I have as many decks as I do, but it's just a simple fact that if one day I woke up and ding, I was able to go and do all of those things again, I might consider getting rid of a third, or I might not because I already own them. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those things. Is it healthy? Is it happy for you? And that's where we kind of sit on it, right?
Yeah. I've made peace with the fact that I am never going to be using all the decks that I have. I have some decks for using. I have some decks that I keep, as I showed before, just for sentimental value, and these are priceless to me. Like, why would I get rid of this? No. Some decks I have as like collectibles or whatever. Although I don't consider myself a collector, I don't go out like seeking certain decks or whatever. But some decks
we're not really traditional collectors, but we have like one or two where we're like, yep, we bought it just, like my Pokemon tarot. It's why I own it. So it's an interesting topic. I respect all sides of the topic when people are owning the conversation. As soon as it starts getting into this is the reason for everyone, then I'm piecing out of it. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. You are Mary Grace. Hello. Although you're coming right onto the tail end of it, and whether you are brave enough to watch this back, I don't know, because we're coming in at around 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But we are nearly at the end.
Yes.
But it's lovely to see you. The second from last question is, if you could befriend one person on TarotTube / in Tarot World, who would it be?
That's such a weird question to me, because
I know.
Because I feel like I already have. Yeah, like,
and all the others. It's not just me.
Yeah, but like, although I'm not really like active in the community and I'm not posting regularly or whatever, I do have people that we talk and we hang out and we stay in touch, whatever. So I feel like I'm already kind of doing that. But at the same time, there are people who I would love to like connect with more and whatnot, but that's always a possibility. I feel like we have a lot of really cool and interesting people, at least on the YouTube platform, because I'm not really in the loop, and there are many people that I don't even know their names who like seem really interesting to me when I watch their videos or whatever, or I feel like, oh, like it would be really cool to hang out with this person, But Yeah, I don't know if I would be able to like single out one person from the tarot world right now. Because there are like so many interesting people. And I feel like Meg from what is her channel, for fuck's
Rose
sake?
Honey Ritual.
Yes, thank you. Pregnancy brain again. Um like I feel like she did a great job with kind of connecting us on that little Discord thing. Although we're not really active on it, I would say. But still,
I'm in one, but I'm not in the other because I needed a break from Discord stuff. I need adding
yeah,
back. But yeah, she
yeah.
did.
And I feel like there's like a lot of cool people on there. As I said, I don't want to be like I'm not gonna start like naming names because I'm always gonna leave somebody out. But yeah, there's a lot of cool people.
So neither am I, for the reasons you said. So what I will add to that is just if people want an insight into how I function, which Tamara will already know, is whilst I look very the cliche of extroverted probably comes to mind when I'm on video and stuff. Like, that's not how I function. I have masked my ass through most of my life, and it's not that this is disingenuous. I'm very happy. I'm also very comfortable because it's Tamara, so that's hence the face. But I am online, not one. I would in person, but it depends. Like, if I'm in person and I see someone on their own, say, like, I don't go to parties, let's be honest. Back when I did stuff, if there was someone on their own, I'd go over and make a point. Like, that's how I was brought up, and it's the therapist in me. Like, I don't want people to be left out. It feels crap. But online, I am not an approacher. And me and a friend were literally talking about this yesterday, and how we've only recently properly connected because we're both those people. It's just I waited them out a tiny bit longer, which is,
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable. I find it difficult to pick up those cues in an online environment. I'm actually quite awkward. And also, a few online things have, they burn you over the years, and it's just kind of like, I'm just a comfortable little hermit that has a lot going on behind the scenes with health and stuff, and I don't tend to put myself out there in that capacity. So there are lots of people, like Tamara said, that are just their brains. I want to listen to them share their brain and their intuition and stuff for hours on end. But I won't instigate the the connections.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Yeah. Like, I'll comment on videos and stuff. I'm good at cheerleading, but we kind of understand these things differently. I'm a follower of a lot of people. I'm a supporter of a lot of people in terms of establishing what I would consider an actual friendship. And to name one person sort of makes me feel like I'm a lion singling out like a gazelle from the crowd. Like, I just feel a bit weird naming one person. I can't do it. So
Yeah.
there are lots of cool people, but also, when we made friends, I was like basically a 5-year-old, and was like to my partner, because do you remember we had a really long phone chat really early on into knowing each other?
I was just thinking right now, how did we even how did this start? I don't remember. Like,
By
what
accident.
was the what was the reason? Because I'm not the person to actually, as you said, I'm not an approacher. I'm not gonna like just message you and just be like, hey, I find you to be cool.
Yeah, I think we slipped into a weird layer of mutual comfort when it was like we both found each other at a similar time. We both started commenting on what we were sharing, and you and I, historically, even if we might not do it as much now, have shared quite a lot of vulnerable stuff. And I think that we then like connected on a part of that, and then we had this, like, I think it was a 3-hour conversation. Yeah, so Tamara and I knew each other for all of like a month, and then had a 3-hour phone conversation.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, but I was like, I'm such a kid. I literally told my partner, I've made a friend.
Yeah, I'm the same though. I'm the same. I remember like I was sitting outside on my balcony and we
Yeah.
were video chatting. I remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
I
that
was
was
just thinking,
great for me because you were like, let's, I think you said we'll video as
it
well.
was just like this, like, okay, let's do it.
And it happened and it's been super chill since. So, but
Yeah.
that's kind of the way it works with me. It's like, yeah, was it catchy something or other? I'm going to ruin another saying, so I won't try. Just
Yeah,
a
but like,
beautiful accident. And that's, I think, a lot of my friendships online have happened like that. And they mean a lot to me because I'm in a bit of a different situation to yourself, whereas I don't really have any IRL people anymore that aren't like family or Dave's family for various reasons. So it's like these, I still video with people, I still voice chat with people. They like these are my relationships. They are my sanity. So for sure. But yeah, I'm very thankful for the ones I have, and I'm sure maybe I'll make another. I don't know.
yeah, I just wanted to say, like, if anyone feels like they want to approach me or us or whatever, I feel like we're both like very open to conversations and whatnot. At least I know that I am.
Yeah,
And
we're very chill. We're
I
just
really
not instigating.
I appreciate having like cool, interesting conversations. I am a person that like will open up quite fast. I don't have a problem like talking about my like any like vulnerable stuff or whatever, or like difficult stuff or whatnot. But I'm not the one.
Open.
Yeah, but I'm not the one that's actually gonna like, you know, go there and start that conversation per se. And also with me being kind of pulled back from social media, that's even less likely to happen. But I'm open to like actually making a connection with someone. So
And our final question to
wow.
check us out is, what is your favorite part of the day to do tarot?
That's another weird question. Like I don't know. I would say that it would have to be like the evening, because that's when I mostly enjoy doing something more like easy and like ritualistic and like pulling cards and having like a chill reflective session or reading for other people. But also at the same time, when I actually pull cards most often is like in the morning,
Yeah.
as I'm having my coffee. And but that's usually limited by time, because I usually either have to go to work or like there are other things that I have to do. So it really actually depends on when I have the most peace and time,
Yeah.
basically. So that's it.
And I think it's the same for me. It's like my favorite ideal versus the reality. So much like you, I say early evening would be like my sweet spot, is when I'm in the lesser amount of pain that I'm in. I can sit
Mhm.
at my altar. I can make that realistic, the kind of very like in the vibe, and do all of the things and have
Yeah.
the candles burning and just get into the mood of it all, which I really love as well. So that's an early evening thing for me.
Mhm.
The reality is, when I do it is probably just before or just after lunchtime. Like that's the predominant, because that's when I have a break. And bringing into what Mia has said here, which was in relation to the sort of making connections online bit, is when you said bandwidth, Mia, that really made me think as well. Yeah, it's a bandwidth thing, because it's like, I'm my health PA. I'm seeing clients, so I'm still a therapist, even though very like low amount of clients. But that's an emotional bandwidth for me, you know, between clients as well, paperwork for running my own business, running a Patreon, making content. So it's like it's a bandwidth thing as well. And when I want to practice tarot and when I have time and availability are two very different things. I feel like I could probably do it in the morning, but the problem is that I wake up like a zombie, and I would literally, like, it's not that I'm not a morning person. I wake up early. It's just ever since I've had my conditions, there's no Tegan there. So I would look at my cards and I would probably just stare at them like, so yeah, when would I like to do it? Early evening, but predominantly it's a lunchtime thing. It's like I stop, I take some time for myself, I do my cards, I eat, and then crack on with life.
Yeah.
Which is okay, it's still enjoyable, but it's like you said, when you can get into the ritual of it, it's tasty. So is there anything you want to add to our exorbitantly, I don't even think that's the right word, extraordinarily long I mean, there's two of us, so if you split it in half, this is a 45-minute response each, which is how long it would have taken me on my own. So yeah, but is there anything you want to add?
I don't think so. I don't know if I've ever had such a like intense tarot conversation, like a general one. Like,
I've gone shiny from the lighting in here.
same.
My hair keeps depuffing. I've loved every second of it, but
yeah,
I think the tarot is seeping from my brains now.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Ooh.
Oh, excellent.
It was a good one though. It was a good one though.
I was actually, I do want to say thank you to Tarot is Magic. I believe I've got their tag right, because I really liked this because it was very discussional in and around practice. And don't get me wrong, this is no shade. Tamara and I have done lots of deck heavy. We love like a autumn deck collection and a deck for this mood or this mood. But every now and then I really like to mix it up with like something more discussional. And I've been trying to work on my own tag for, I think it's Marlena Teresa knows, for like 3 months, and just I've got loads of questions, but none of them go together. So when I saw this, I was like, awesome. And Tamara and I had wanted to do something together, and she agreed. So I was freaking elated. Hopefully we will do more stuff in the future, although it won't. We're having a no pressure open agreement. The videos will be whatever they'll be, about whatever we feel like and when we feel like it. But yeah, hopefully we can get some more Tamara on into our tarot world again.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this stuff, and it's something I definitely miss from when we used to do the podcast. So yeah, I'm totally up for like hanging out and talking tarot anytime. So
yeah, watch this space, people. You've been warned.
Yeah.
But otherwise, thank you for coming on. I hope that everyone thoroughly enjoyed this. We are going to end the stream now because no one might watch it back otherwise. And we will catch you all again sometime in the future. So yeah, thanks for hanging out, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.